Welcome back, everybody, this week. We're continuing with Teachings for Victory, Volume 4. We're on to Chapter 4, which is the Gosho, Flowering and Bearing Grain, subtitled Achieving Kosen Rufu Through the Shared Commitment of Mentor and Disciple. I'm going to read the background from page 910. The whole Gosho is in the lecture series, so I won't be reading it from volume 1, but it's volume 1, page 909 is the Gosho. I'm going to read from the background now on page 910. It says, background. Nichiren Daishonin sent this message from Minobu in the 4th month of 1278 for the second memorial service for Dozenbo. Dozenbo had been a senior priest at Seichoji Temple where the Daishonin entered the priesthood. The Daishonin studied under him from the age of 12. The letter was addressed to his former seniors at Seichoji, Jokenbo and Gijobo. When Nichiren Daishonin first declared the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo at Seichoji in 1253, he strongly refuted the dominant Pure Land school. Tojo Kagenobu, the steward of the village and an ardent Pure Land believer, became enraged and ordered his arrest. Dozenbo helped the Daishonin escape. However, fearing the others, Dozenbo remained a priest of Seichoji to the end of his life. But the Daishonin never forgot his former teacher. In the 7th month of 1276, having learned of Dozenbo's death, the Daishonin wrote on repaying debts of gratitude, which we've read. It's on video, in honor of his memory, and sent it to Jokenbo and Gijobo. And on repaying debts of gratitude is one of his 10 major writings. Okay, so then going to the Gosho itself from page 49 of volume 4. Everybody's with me?
Yeah.
Okay. What would obviously the Gosho's got a title, Flowering and Bearing Grain, but what would that bring to mind to you as it relates to this Buddhism and the predication of what we know we're going to be talking about? Dozenbo, the Daishonin's original teacher. Don't forget, it's his original teacher. He entered the priesthood when he was 12 years old. This is the guy he studied under. This is the guy that lit his fuse. Okay? All right? So, what can you tell me about Dozenbo, and what does this potentially have to do with the title of this? What is flowering? Is fruition, right? Bearing grain is fruition. What is fruition? Do you know what I mean by when I use the word fruition? Fruition is like things coming of fruit, becoming fruity. You know, it's like, in other words, coming into harvest maturity, right? Okay. So what would that tell you? What is that really qualifying to you then about this Buddhism? It's very important for you to understand this, especially if you're to ever buy into the concept of Kosen Rufu being something that can be really achieved. What? Yeah, but what does flowering and bearing grain, achieving Kosen Rufu through the shared commitment of mentor and disciple? What is that talking about?
When you achieve Kosen Rufu, when everybody...
How do you achieve Kosen Rufu?
You do your share.
Huh? You do your share. And what is your share?
Attain Buddhahood, at least.
Yeah, and when you attain Buddhahood, what are you expressing with your life?
You become a mentor.
Yes. And in that process, you are flowering and bearing grain. From the single source of the teacher you had, many are taught. From that teaching of that single mentor, then that many that are taught become teachers. Many, many more are taught. Think about grain. Think about flowers. Do you understand what I'm saying? Each flower gives forth the potentiality of many, many, many more flowers. And every single flower does go through birth, old age, sickness, and death in the process of creating that exponentiality. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you know where I'm coming from then? There can never be a separation. How can you separate tomorrow's flowers from today's flowers? You cannot. Tomorrow's flowers are only tomorrow's flowers because of today's flowers. And
Yes.
today's flowers are only today's flowers because of yesterday's flowers. Do understand that, right? So the whole idea here, I'll read the Gosho. It'll be, okay. Achieving Kosen Rufu through the shared commitment of mentor and disciple. Who's the mentor? That I shown it. The original teacher, okay? And the disciple are the bodhisattvas of the earth. The shared commitment of mentor-disciple. Shared equally, okay? Kosen Rufu can't happen without the original teacher. Kosen Rufu can't happen without the disciples. Right? Everybody's with me?
Yes.
All right, so reading from page 49, the passage for study in this lecture. He says, I have not heard from either of you since that time. And since that time, he's talking about since I sent off my messenger with the thing that I wanted read over Dozenbo's grave. Okay, right? Everybody's with me? All right. But I was very pleased to learn that you had read at Kasamagori the 2 documents I wrote in the Kinji era in memory of the late sage Dozenbo. So he's saying, I haven't heard from you since then, but I'm really happy to hear that you did do what I asked you to do. Okay? He says, if a tree is deeply rooted, its branches and leaves will never wither. If the spring is inexhaustible, the stream will never run dry. Without wood, a fire will burn out. Without earth, plants will not grow. I, Nichiren, and am indebted solely to my late teacher Dozenbo for my having become the votary of the Lotus Sutra and my being widely talked about now in both good and a bad sense. Nichiren is like the plant and my teacher the earth. So what did he just say there? What would you get out of that if you were looking at this from, again, when you read the Gosho, try to relate it to your own life. Try to relate it to your own experience. Okay? He's showing such a depth of appreciation that he understands that even though Dozenbo didn't follow him, didn't give up the Nimbutsu, didn't start practicing with his whole heart, you didn't do Shakubuku, succumb to the authorities. Even though that was the case, it's because of Dozenbo that the fire got lit. And therefore, because of that match that Dozenbo was at that moment in his life, he is forever indebted to him. And he realizes that nothing that has transpired since that moment of meeting Dozenbo would have transpired had it not been for that moment of meeting Dozenbo. Everything began with that. Do you understand? That's the relationship with every mentor and disciple. Like I mentioned Mr. Matsuoka and Mr. Toda, or Mr. Osaki all the time. They didn't teach me everything I know, but they taught me the spirit in which I was able to actually embrace and understand it. Do you understand? So your relationship with your mentor is not necessarily the quantitative amount that they taught you as much as the door they opened in inspiring you. Because it's really all you anyhow. Right? You're going to learn what you've made the karmic influence to learn.
Right.
You're going to make, okay?
Yes.
All right, so if a tree is deeply rooted, its branches and leaves will never wither. If a spring is inexhaustible, the stream will never run dry. Without wood, a fire will burn out. Without earth, plants will not grow. I, Nichiren, am indebted solely to my late teacher, Dozenbo, for my having become the votary of the Lotus Sutra, and my being talked about, being widely talked about now in both good and both good and bad sense. Nichiren is like the plant, and my teacher, the earth. The bodhisattvas of the earth have 4 leaders. The sutra says the first was called superior practices, and the fourth and the fourth was called bodhisattva firmly established practices. If bodhisattva superior practices appears in the latter day of the law, so must bodhisattva firmly established practices. The rice plant flowers and bears grain. but its spirit remains in the soil. This is the reason the stalk sprouts to flower and bear grain once again. The blessings that Nichiren obtains from propagating the Lotus Sutra will always return to Dozenbo. How sublime. It is said that if a teacher has a good disciple, both will gain the fruit of Buddhahood. But if a teacher fosters a bad disciple, both will fall into hell. If teacher and disciple are of different minds, they will never accomplish anything. I will elaborate on this point later. You should always talk with each other to free yourselves from the sufferings of birth and death and attain the pure land of Eagle Peak, where you will nod to each other and speak in one mind. The sutra reads, before the multitude, they seem possessed of the three poisons or manifest the signs of distorted views. My disciples in this manner use expedient means to save living beings. Understand these matters in light of what I have stated thus far. Respectfully, Nichiren. So he's saying, understand based on everything I've taught you how to perceive what I'm saying now. All right, but he says here, the sutra reads, before the multitude they seem possessed of the three poisons or manifest the signs of distorted views. My disciples in this manner use expedient means to save living beings. What's that talking about? It's not just good people. It's just not saintly, in white, priestly-like people that carry forth the law in the latter day. Every manner of teacher manifests in the latter day because every manner of individual must be reached. Okay? And so you require a variety of teachers, okay, in order to be able to propagate and touch the lives of those many different varying types of people based on whatever their karma might be. Continuing with the lecture on page 50. The spring month of March is here at last, and soon we'll celebrate March 16th, the anniversary of the day in 1958 on which 6,000 youth from throughout Japan assembled with our mentor, Josei Toda, in a dress rehearsal for Kosen Rufu. At that gathering, President Toda declared, the Soka Gakkai is the king of the religious world. It was a solemn ceremony of mentor and disciple, of the passing of the baton of the great undertaking of Kosen Rufu. Having accomplished this cherished goal of reaching a membership of 750,000 households, Mr. Toda entrusted us, his youthful disciples, with the full responsibility for the future of our movement. By the next March 16th in 1959, Mr. Toda had already departed this world. But since mentor and disciple are one, Mr. Toda's courageous call transcended the bounds of death and continued to reverberate powerfully in my heart. I told Youth Division representatives, let's make March 16th an eternal day of commemoration in the calendar of our movement for Kosen Rufu. I believe there is a profound significance in the fact that we, the members of the Youth Division, gathered around our mentor in the month of March, in a season brimming with youthful vitality like that of fresh young barley shoots. March is the month when the first barley crop, which is to be harvested in early summer, grows vigorously. Fields of barley, undefeated by the chilly weather of early spring, sparkle with vivid green shoots, as vibrant and refreshing as youth itself. It was Mr. Toda's wish that his young disciples grow, develop, and achieve victory after victory. This is the hope-filled path of growth and development he entrusted to us, a path in rhythm with the fundamental law of life. In this chapter, let us study flowering and bearing grain. Let's make a fresh starting point for advancing together on the quintessential path of mentor and disciple toward a bright future abloom with joy and victory. And at that point in time, we would start reading the Gosho segment by segment, and we'll pick that up next time we see each other. We'll start on page 51 again. Okay? And what I really wanted to do, though, is before I started out talking about those other things that I was just discussing, was to go back here to last week's
6 days.
You know, because if I ever wanted to encourage myself, last week was all I had to do was listen to my own video. All right, when we talk about the Buddha, always counters trepidation, always encounters obstacles and difficulty. Okay, so for me to be dealing with anything right now should not be a shock. It's a validation to me. All right, so I just want to read what President Ikeda quoted President Makaguchi as saying, okay, from last week. It was on page 39. It says, striving to be genuine practitioners. So if you're striving to be a genuine practitioner, you don't begrudge your life. Okay? Whatever comes your way, you do your very best to show actual proof. Okay? And so this says, during Nichiren's lifetime, a considerable number of people in Japan professed to believe in the Lotus Sutra, but their practice consisted of little more than listening to lectures on the sutra or transcribing its passages with the aim of gaining personal benefit. Their view of the sutra differed completely from the Buddhist spirit to work wholeheartedly, even in the most troubled times, to free all people from delusion and suffering and leading them to enlightenment. With his selfless dedication to propagating the law as the sutra's votary, Nichiren boldly revealed the error of people's approach to the Lotus Sutra in his day. Tadesaburo Makaguchi, the founding Soka Gakkai president, famously distinguished between those who merely believe in the Lotus Sutra and those who actually practice it. Encountering obstacles or devilish functions is what distinguishes practitioners from mere believers. I guess I'm a practitioner. Okay? He was saying, in other words, that those concerned solely with their own benefit, who don't confront the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, are mere believers, while those who apply themselves to bodhisattva practice for the sake of Kosen Rufu, which means you place your life, you place Kosen Rufu ahead of your own life, right? That's what not begrudging your life is all about. All right? While those who apply themselves to bodhisattva practice for the sake of Kosen Rufu, for the happiness of both themselves and others, and actively battle the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, are genuine practitioners. None other than the first 3 Soka Gakkai presidents and our dedicated members in Japan and throughout the world have faithfully engaged in this endeavor as true practitioners of the Lotus Sutra. That is why the 3 obstacles and 4 devils and the 3 powerful enemies have arisen to obstruct our movement's advance. Because each member is a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, the Soka Gakkai has been able to face countless hardships and obstacles with courageous faith and triumph completely over each one. But then, now, here's the kicker, all right? I've said this before, and it's theoretical on my part, but to a great degree, we would not be where we are in the Kosen Rufu of Earth had President Toda lived to be 80 or 85 years old. Oh, he would not. There would not have been a young third president, okay, that then dynamically, immediately decided to get on airplanes and go all over the world. We'd have had a 70-year-old president who was in declining health, and who knows how things would have worked out.
Yeah.
This is the point. Age and longevity are not the key to whether you lived a long and a successful life. It's what did you accomplish? Who did you touch? Who still thinks about you 50 years later? You know, Mr. Matsuoka, Mr. Osaki. Those kinds of people, those are the kinds of people you want to be. The kinds of people that don't have to be famous. Their fame is etched into the heart of each person that they touch. And each person that they touch absolutely touch others. Okay? And this is the baton passing of the ultimate, the heritage of the ultimate law of life. Okay? So please do understand that. No matter what happens to anyone at any given time, it's not about whether they lived or they died. It's the effect of their life as a whole on the process of Kosen Rufu. All right? And so I think I've read that. And then just to make sure why you understand why I'm saying this, it's like, well, Tom, are you kind of like not sure if you're going to make it? No, I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it, but I worry about all of you. All right? And so it's not my doubts right now. I'm trying to put aside here. I need to explain to you how something could happen to me and it would be perfectly okay. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm perfectly okay, if something happened to me. I'm not afraid of death in any way, shape, or form. Okay? If something should happen to me, it should not affect how any of you feel about what I've been saying all this time. Because the only reason I've been here to say it to you is because of the fortune I've gained from practicing. Because I should have been dead 30, 40 years ago. Seriously. I've alluded to this a million times. When I finally hit 70, I'm going to tell you who I really am. Because that statute of limitations, they're not even going to want me at that point in time. All right? But seriously, I've done some crazy shit, and I mean massive amounts of it. All right? So my body's taken abuse that's not made for normal consumption. So I have no one to blame for, all the things that I face now other than myself. I'm trying to get to the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. There it is. Let me read this very carefully because you need to make sure that you always understand this part of it. Okay, let me just read what it says. It says, various obstacles and hindrances to the practice of Buddhism. They are listed in the Nirvana Sutra and the Treatise on the Great Perfection of Wisdom. The 3 obstacles are the obstacle of earthly desires, or obstacles arising from the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. 2, the obstacle of karma, obstacles due to bad karma created by committing any of the 5 cardinal sins or 10 evil acts. And 3, which is mostly all slandering the law shit. And 3, the obstacle of retribution, obstacles caused by negative karmic effects of actions in the 3 evil paths. In a letter he addressed to the Ikegami brothers in 1275, Nichiren states that the obstacles of earthly desires is the impediments to one's practice that arise from greed, anger, and foolishness and the like. An obstacle of karma is the hindrance represented by one's wife or children, and the obstacle of retribution is the hindrances caused by one's sovereign or parents. Here we go. Here's the part I want to make sure you understand. The 4 devils are the hindrance of the 5 components, obstruction caused by one's physical and mental functions. You were born defective in either physical or mental capacities. 2, the hindrance of earthly desires, obstructions arising from the 3 poisons. 3, the hindrance of death. Now understand, this is what I wanted to get to because it's important for you to understand. The hindrance of death, meaning one's own untimely death, like we could think of Shihichi Chiro, Naja Tokimitsu's younger brother. Okay? There's a perfect example right there. All right? Meaning one's own untimely death, obstructing one's practice of Buddhism, although that is not what occurred with the Daishonin and Naja Tokimitsu, but had he taken a bad, okay. Or the premature death of another practitioner, causing one to doubt. And the hindrance of the devil king who is said to assume that's the devil king of the 6th heaven. So the whole point is that the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, one of the devils is the devil of death. It's not the devil of death necessarily just about you dying. It's about death as a function having an effect on your faith. Okay? Death is going to come no matter what. But you better not want any effect on your faith. That's what I'm trying to say. No matter what health I was in, I would die at some point. Period. Okay? That should never affect your faith. Don't ever let my longevity or any individual's longevity affect your faith. That's really what I was trying to make sure that I left you with. I still got a half hour to talk if I want to talk that long. So, the one other thing that I was going to say tonight that I wanted to get out there in case anything ever happened to me is that, for all these years, I've really just been talking to all you guys, and these 2 things are sticking in front of me and I really don't think about them that much. Sometimes my language demonstrates that. But I've actually found that there are some folks out there that I have a connection with, And those two little devices are what connected us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to get into mentioning names now, because then if I miss anybody's name, okay. But all the names I know are the names you all have given me. So if you've communicated with me in any way, do understand that I've never stopped thinking about you and I've never stopped chanting for you. Okay? Really and truly. And that I definitely, as silly as it might seem for me to say it, I feel we have an absolute karmic relationship that precedes this lifetime. I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it. When I have some of the conversations I've had, like with Jackie and recently with Faye. I mean, Marilyn. I mean, again, I don't want to get into start naming names because I'll have to name 50 people off. So just you all know who you are. Last week when Faye tried reaching out to me, and I did get a hold of Faye, by the way. You know what we put out there to help facilitate that connect was an email address that I have available for anybody that wants to contact me now, and it's Old Soup and Sling. Make sure that this gets on the Facebook thing, okay, so that it's printed, because I'm going to only be speaking it right now. But Old Soup, spelled OLDSOUP, was already taken, so we had to do 2 P's. So just think of PP. I'm kind of a PP guy, right? So just think Old Soup with 2 P's at Gmail. And anybody that wants to write to me about anything, anytime, can reach me that way. That's not a big public secret either anymore. With that stated, would there be anything from anybody around the table? You ever wanted to ask me something about to shut these things off? There's a million people I want to say thank you to that I didn't get around to writing the whole list tonight, yesterday, or this week. Can you think of anything that you would like to know about, you would like my opinion on? Any questions of life, of practice, or faith? Don't ever get hung up on stigmas about sex or sexuality. I'll throw that one out there without being asked. You can't judge people based on anything. That's really it. Always be kind to one another. Always know that everybody has flaws. Everybody feels weak. Everybody feels they're the worst person in the world. Everybody feels that, they'll never be able to change. We all can change. We can all live happy lives. We can all live happy lives regardless of the circumstance that we're living in. It's based on having a correct understanding of what life is in the first place. So, anybody else have anything else they want to add? And this might be one of the shortest videos we've done. You can't think of anything, Catherine, you might want to ask about? It's okay if you can't. I don't want to put any of you on the spot. Don't ask a question just to ask a question. But I just want to make sure that if there was anything you wanted to ask me while I know I'm in a position to answer it, it's right now. Anything beyond this moment, I don't know for sure. Well, once again, I want to say thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you to Sling for developing the Facebook group. The Facebook group has been awesome. You guys are all communicating and talking to one another. I've never done Facebook in my life. My wife is now trying to indoctrinate me to come over to the dark side. And so I may be joining you over there before you know it. Once again, I'm still kind of a YouTube dude. I read YouTube comments, and for those of you that follow on YouTube, do know that I see what you write there. Those of you that leave messages, unless they're forwarded to me from Facebook, sometimes I miss them. Jackie, I know you had something you wrote in there a few days ago. I only found out about it today. So, with that said, wish me luck tomorrow. It's supposed to be a 0.001 chance of fatality.
Missing one more zero.
Huh?
You're missing one more zero.
I'm missing one more zero. So it's 0.001.
3 zeros.
3 zeros.
After the dot.
Whatever. I ain't
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Okay.
Right. So,
So the
beyond that,
surgery is tomorrow morning or?
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
it is tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Are there
Did you
are there
want to-
questions?
Do you want to quick answer Andre?
Oh yeah. First of all, this is
Yes.
Andre. My God, Andre Silva, dude. First of all, just so you know, you're one of those people that I chant about all the time. You are my original little brother. Okay. So Andre, you wanted to know as a new member what would if you're going to read something. What would you recommend a specific textual reading for someone new to Daimoku and Nichiren Buddhism? And I'm so glad you brought this up, man. I'd have totally screwed up if I had not got this answered for Andre tonight. Because Andre's one of my main men. Okay, and so are you, proud Cuban Frank, wherever the hell you are. The bottom line is that it's 2 quick goshos, dude. If you want to nail it down from the very beginning, these are the 2 that you got to nail down and really feel from the bottom of your heart. So you read them until you understand them from the bottom of your heart. And you got to read them as a bodhisattva of the earth. Don't read them out of curiosity or for the sake of some freaking, collection of information. You want to read on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. And make this something you understand with your whole life, okay? And it just so happens that we are going to be doing a whole lecture series. There's like one of the little pamphlets, one of the lecture pamphlets on it, as well as the thing from, SGI Malaysia has printed that, and I already showed it to you last week, right? Hang on.
Oh, yes, the yellow one. 那个我们以前念过。Oh, this one is the new.
This one. Now the
the
SGI, the
yeah.
Malaysia version is a different color. Right.
But this is from the
But-
Malaysia.
No, this is actually what they did. This is from SGI USA.
Uh-huh.
But you can see from the way they printed it, they just cut and pasted SGI Malaysia.
See, yeah.
Okay, I mean literally
Uh-huh.
cut and pasted. It's the same font. So that's cool though, because that was an English language market that this is a great translation. So we'll be doing that. Then the other one that you got to go to once you nail on attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, then go to the true aspect of all phenomena. And buy into that with your whole life. You want 2 things that'll set you for a course of success in terms of faith. Nail those 2 first. Nail those 2 first, because those are the 2 that really help you identify with the nature of why this philosophy exists and why it has so much power and why you seem to be able to get what you get out of from just saying some words that you don't even really understand. This goes to the source of where all this begins. It didn't begin in this lifetime. It precedes this lifetime. Okay? That's really the point that you have to understand, that this thing that it seems like you found out for the first time, bro, this isn't the first time. And you nail those 2 goshos in terms of your heart as a bodhisattva of the earth, that there won't be a doubt in your life, in your mind, that this isn't the first lifetime, right? So, also, Rhonda Keys, right? Rhonda Keys starts with the J.
Yeah.
Had asked about making the Facebook group public instead of private,
Yeah,
or
we
something like that, because it was
Somewhere
it was to
Yeah.
it was to facilitate. I thought something about wanting to be able to ask questions or have an open dialogue, whatever. I have nothing to do with the Facebook deal. That's Slings. But once again, if it was about asking questions, that you wanted privacy in asking questions, that old soup with 2 P's at gmail.com will get to me, and there won't be anybody else that knows about those conversations other than myself. I don't even discuss them with my wife.
I think the group is open to public now.
Yeah, you can write to me immediately.
It is open.
Tom,
Okay.
guess who this is?
Oh, it is
I've been
open.
waiting how long it's going to take you to
So
actually.
what is Tom? It's gmail.com.
Also,
Also-
PC.
Oh, okay.
2 P's
Yeah.
at gmail.com.
Okay.
I didn't prepare anything more than this because I don't want to go into the Go Show halfway and
Yeah.
then For the second half, it's 2 or 3 weeks before I'm able to finish it because I don't know what's ahead of me.
Yep.
If everything goes according to schedule, we're going to be reading for an hour and 15 minutes next week. We'll be making this up because I'll be going through 12 pages. All right?
One question?
What?
I'll say one question.
Sure. There was a question.
No,
Oh.
from me. I
Okay,
was
from
asking.
my wife has a question. Okay.
I was like, as you attend Buddhahood and then facing difficulties, and
Okay, but then again, let's qualify. What is the attainment of Buddhahood?
realize
Nothing more than the realization that you're already the Buddha 100% of the time, all the time.
okay,
Okay? Go.
and what?
And utilizing that, not just knowing it.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Yeah, and we go through difficulties and challenges, and so how do you? I mean, other than chanting, it's like, how do you face it?
How do you face it? How do you
Deal
face
with it? Yes.
How do you deal with the difficulties?
Right.
Okay. That's one of the reasons why I just told Andre, go to those 2 go-shos and buy into being a bodhisattva of the earth. Once you become a disciple of Nichiren Daishonin, and your real purpose for being here isn't how much money you make, your job, the woman you're going to marry, or the husband you're going to have, it's Kosen Rufu. You came here as an extension of the original teaching, the original teacher for
Your mission.
a purpose that you volunteered toward. Okay, if you believe all that, then it says Gan Ken Go, baby. You made the appropriate karma for how badass a dude you are to volunteer for the shit you said you'd take. Tatsunokuchi, I think, is probably maxing it out. Okay, and it's all relative below that. President Toda in prison for all that time, not knowing what the hell happened. President Makaguchi dying. God knows how they tortured him, starved him to death. Okay? I mean, President Ikeda having people that you only try to help hate you. Everywhere. Having all kinds of difficulties, helping people understand the prime point. Having as large a multi-billion-dollar entity as the Soka Gakkai is and keep it clean. Holy shit, this is hard stuff to do.
Yeah.
Really. The world's made up of people that all live in the 9 worlds.
Yes.
Right? So, this is a huge challenge. And that's why we must all become teachers. We cannot freaking sit around and wait for another Daisaku Ikeda who's going to pontificate all the truth, and all we do is read about the truth. We learn about the truth. We don't go teach the truth. No, we have to be teachers of the truth. Okay? And the truth is the correct understanding that manifests fortune, benefit, and sustains itself in perpetuity toward this realization of world peace. So when you say, what else? How can we do? What else can we do besides chant Daimoku? First of all, if you try and do anything else without doing the Daimoku as the most important part, as the front end part, common mortal. Whatever you can do as a common mortal, great, good for you. You want to do it as a Buddha, you want to see the power of the law, then base it all on Daimoku. Base it on Daimoku, and because you don't have the wisdom to understand what to do. 99% of the time, I don't have the answers. They fall in my lap. Seriously. That's the kind of benefits I get. They just dissipate into thin air because weird shit happens. I did not have some supernatural ability that you're my witness. It just freaking goes away. It just changes. Okay? But that comes from all those hours of Daimoku and faith. You know how much we chant.
Yes.
Nobody else knows. So,
We all know.
it's, well,
It's up
I'm
to
saying
us to
it
know.
takes regular, consistent, legitimate action. It's not just, there's believers and there's practitioners. You can be a great believer. There's nothing wrong with being a believer. You're not going to go to hell for just being a believer and not a practitioner. Do understand that,
Right.
okay? You're just not really going to know what the 10th world is until you finally do the things that allow you to experience the 10th world.
It's joy.
It's that's it. So,
Yeah, I think when we talk about when we face the obstacle, when we face the difficulties, I mean, it's not really deal with the difficulties. Usually, I think we are dealing with our fear.
Fearless. Fear.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
trust me, dear. I mean, you know.
That's why I think we're not talking about that real obstacle. We are talking about when obstacle happen,
Well,
we are
exactly.
afraid. Yeah,
Right.
That's why we need-
The obstacle is never anything because when we defeat it,
yeah.
was it really such a big badass deal? No, we defeated it. We were more powerful than it. So it's always the fear.
Yeah.
It's always the fear. The fear of being different, the fear of being weak, the fear of not knowing, the fear of being liked, the fear of being disliked, the fear of being not good looking enough, the fear of everybody hating me because I'm so beautiful. There's people that don't have I know so many beautiful people that are miserable because because of their appearance. Believe it or not, they think they're ugly. Okay? Because their whole life has been based on appearance, something as shallow and changing as that. Okay? So there's all kinds of ways that we can show weakness and manifest sorrow and pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Okay? Is an infinite number of ways. Okay? That's why the clarity of Buddhahood is what eliminates that. Because it gets rid of the bullshit.
Yes.
It says, come on, Tom, who are you kidding? You're right, okay. That's ninth world, 10th world. That's, again, we don't all just hang out in the 10th world like holy,
Buddha.
spooky, weird dudes that, okay. You think Nichiren Daishonin never drank sake? Do you think he only drank it medicinally?
No.
I mean, come on, he's a priest. He's a Japanese priest. They drink. Okay? So, I mean, the bottom line is that all of these kinds of things that we could create value or non-value decisions, really, it's Kosumu. As long as we keep our eyes on the big prize, not on the small bullshit, we'll be fine.
Yes.
We'll be fine. Because like you said, none of that stuff is, other than the fear that it creates, is real. Really. Death isn't real. Got news for you. That's the point. Right? You just go on to the next mission. And that's the thing, I used to wonder, why did this whole thing for me has happened because I've had a thing with death my whole life. Okay? Because my mom, I lived in the shadow of death from the time I was born, virtually. And so, it really always, it was something that I chanted a lot of Daimoku about why Nichiren Daishonin couldn't chant away his diarrhea. That really, okay, that I got to figure out why. There's a catch here somehow. Okay? And why couldn't Mr. Osaki chant away his cancer? It just did. I mean, this guy is like the most beautiful human being I've ever met. I can't even talk about him without starting to cry. But see, when those people have met the people they are supposed to meet, they leave that piece of them with them.
Yeah.
And it never leaves them.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? That was their function, was to just leave that little piece that lasts for 30 years. That's all you needed, Tom. That's all I needed for Mr. Osaki was to say, you wait, Tom, you're the kind of guy that after you wait until you've been practicing 30 years. Wait, said all these things. So I was kind of locked into practicing at least 30 years to see if the guy was full of shit. Seriously, from that point on, he's saying, no, if I can worry about any of this shit, man. Pardon me, the F word slipped out. But he did actually say that literally. That was the word that he used. he said, you're the kind of guy. He said, he literally said, frankly speaking, this was a very high senior leader, NSA at the time, telling me, His quote unquote was, Tom, if they got their hands on you right now, they'd kill you. That's what he said to me about the organization. Don't worry about it. You're the kind, you go do your business. You're the kind of guy that you don't need to hang out and have people prop you up. Go get benefits, do shakabuku. Okay. So that's what I did for 30 years, waiting to see what would happen after 30 years. What happened after 30 years? My wife gave birth to my 3 boys. Changed my life forever. Changed everything forever. You know, Mr. Osaki was completely correct. And then, you know, I'd have never thought, we started this little group as like a very casual deal, and then we went through all that political bullshit with the English group. Do you understand? And then Mr. Koshikawa, for God's sake, I love you, dude, but we're still doing this.
Still doing that. Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
All right?
We're still here.
Okay, we're still here. Now, and then what did that lead to, though, then? That led to me talking to somebody in the United Kingdom last weekend who just thanked me profusely for that conversation, and I didn't really say anything that profound other than just encourage them correctly. Mm-hmm. But again, we don't know. We don't know. I was not planning on communicating with people outside of the realm of this table. I wouldn't have trusted the shit I would like I said, I don't want to take the shit. And for all of you wondering why I don't practice with the SGI that are watching the videos, Faye mentioned this. Once again, I live in a shakabuku country. Okay, I don't live in a shoju country.
Yeah.
And I'm remonstrating with my local organization for reasons that I won't go into on camera because it's not necessary for me to get into that. I have very openly expressed this to the Soka Gakkai in Japan, and they sure as hell didn't say, boy, you're going down the wrong path. Don't do that. They did not tell me that. Okay? And in the absence of them telling me to do something different than I am, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing because I'm getting too much benefit. Why would I stop? Why would I stop when the Gohanzan's telling me each week, hurry, you have to be prepared. You have no idea what I do to get ready for these conversations. That's why this week there's nothing to talk about because I didn't prepare shit. You know, it's like I already knew a week ago. I'm just going to have a chat. So, because I didn't want to break the lesson into two with an unknown in the middle. So, anything else? It's been kind of fun. Just talk like this. That's it. Let's go ahead and end it early then.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
have to go.
So, thank you everybody.
Thank
Again,
you.
Thank you.
Facebook will let you know when the next thing's going to happen, and I'm sure
Next Wednesday,
YouTube
come back.
will as well, right?
Yeah.
Come back next Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I'm going to be back next Wednesday. So count on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Count on
Yeah.
it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.